Emerie could not talk, but later on I would ask her and she would tell me once I got under control and she could talk. I said, Emerie, the pain management doctor wanted to know, why were you not screaming in pain? And she calmly looked at me like she always does. And she says, well, Dad, one thing is I knew that I was loved. Okay, let that sink in. Her first response when, why weren't you screaming in pain, was, I knew I was loved. And secondly, she said to me, what good would it do to complain, Dad? I knew my pain was temporary. I thought as an 8-year-old, she wasn't coached by Stacie and I trying to tough it up. No. As an 8-year-old, her mindset was, I'm loved, I'm with people that care about me, and I will outlast my pain. That, to me, is the summary of Stand and Fight altogether.
Welcome to the Erie Wellness Podcast, your go-to source for all things health, wellness, and living your best life right here in Erie. I'm your host, Lauren Brunetti, and I'm so excited to have you here. Each episode will dive into conversations with local experts and wellness professionals who are making an impact in the world of health and well-being. Before we jump in, be sure to like, share, and comment on this episode. We love hearing from you and seeing our community grow. Now let's get started. Today's episode is one that truly moved me. I had the honor of sitting down with Tyler and Stacie, parents to an incredible little girl named Emerie. At just 8 years old, Emerie was diagnosed with a rare, life-threatening autoimmune condition that left her unable to walk, eat, or even talk, but she never gave up. As her dad said, she had a lion inside of her, and she fought with everything she had. Against all odds, Emerie came out stronger, healthy, and full of life. Even as a child, she carried wisdom far beyond her years, often reminding everyone around her that my pain is just temporary and I choose to stand and fight. Tyler and Stacie have shown incredible courage and strength through it all, turning their family's journey into a mission to help others through the Stand and Fight Foundation. Their story is about hope, faith, and perseverance, and I'm so grateful they joined me on today's podcast. Let's get into the conversation. Let's start at the beginning. Can you take us back? What was Emerie like before her diagnosis, and how did you first realize something wasn't right?
Emerie's always been so full of energy, light-bearing. Friends are always very attracted to her. So are adults. Like, she just has this just unspeakable joy. That just is a magnet for other people. And we ran the local Rad Rover race right before. She was playing soccer, running up and down the street with friends, and life was completely normal. I had taken on a new role that required my attention to be away from the family a little bit more, and I was receiving a small stipend. And so we bought the kids a why wouldn't I gift, and we're like, Emerie, what would you like for your why wouldn't I? And she goes, a guinea pig. Of course I want a guinea pig. And so she started getting these rashes on her knuckles, and we attributed that to the guinea pig. Maybe she's allergic to the guinea pig or something. Yeah. And that was kind of the beginning of the signs of something's going on. But as a parent, we don't have disease in our family. Like, we had no grid for this whatsoever. We didn't understand what was to come or what we would be up against in any way, because she was completely normal. And then seemingly overnight, this rash on her knuckles caused her face to swell significantly. It became very distorted. She had so much internal inflammation and heat that it bust through her eyes. And so she got big sores and wounds in her eyes. Her lips were probably double, if not triple in size. A completely distorted face. And then she started saying it really hurts to walk up the stairs. And pretty soon just more and more pains were coming on. And her energy, our little energetic girl was very lethargic. Mm-hmm. We realized something's going on. But this is at the peak of COVID. And so she has MIS-C, which is just a multi-inflammatory system, like kind of failure thing, where you just go to the hospital and get something. We had sought a lot of other help. We had worked with different practitioners, and they were very scared that maybe it was COVID, so they wouldn't treat us outside of a hospital setting, which in the end was a blessing because we went to the hospital thinking we just need a quick like antiviral, a little bit of something, and we'll bounce back.
Take 2 pills and call me in the morning, and it's good.
We didn't even tell our other children bye. It was kind of suddenly felt very emergent, like we're going to take her into the emergency room, and we'll be right back before they're ever even up for the day. And so we didn't realize then that we wouldn't be home for months. And so there was really no goodbye to our children either.
So it's called, so it's 3 in a million. Only 3 in a million kids a year are diagnosed with juvenile dermatomyositis. And in short, it's when your body's immune system, it's a runaway immune system. Your body views your skin and your muscles as a virus, as the enemy. So it goes to work. Your immune system starts going and destroying muscles. And when I say muscles, don't just think, your muscle, your biceps and stuff. Think your heart and your lungs. So we were blessed in the fact that even though it was so rare, there was a doctor at our local children's that said, here's your diagnosis, and you need to get in that ambulance right there and go down to the main campus at Anschutz. And we were like, oh wow.
I know, you're like, we thought we were just here for give us something and we'll be at home tonight for dinner.
Yeah, and doctors don't know, but they just do their job, and they use words like no cure, and potentially lifelong, and potentially life-threatening. And when you went in there for take 2 pills and call me in the morning, and now you're faced with that, your head spins, you're heartbroken, and but you got no other choice than to put one step in front of the other and make progress.
How long did the doctors think that she had it before she started seeing symptoms?
Because it's so rare, kids go from doctor to doctor to doctor, and they say, oh, it's this, or oh, it's that, and it's not. The average diagnosis, if I know my stats right, is 3 months. Kids go from doctor to doctor, and it's 3 months before they get to some doctor that goes, hey, it's JDM, juvenile dermatomyositis, JDM. But
hers was such a rapid onset, though. Hers happened very quick. They had not seen such a rapid downward spiral like Emerie presented with at all. Right. They ranked her among the worst they'd ever seen.
Yeah. So when kids, not just from Colorado, but from our region, whether it's New Mexico, Wyoming, Utah, when it's something like this, most of those kids end up coming to Aurora, the main Anschutz hospital, where where quite frankly one of the top 3 or 4 leaders in all of JDM actually is at Anschutz and was our doctor. And so it's one of those places, you never want to go to the hospital, ever. There's a hospital, but if you had to go,
it's a good place to be.
And Tyler, I remember you saying when we first had that initial phone call of, her pain levels were through the roof. And she, you'd think she would be kicking there, screaming and everything like that. But she really was just being as strong as she possibly could. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, the pain is unimaginable. And I know I shared the story with you, and I often share that, like, if I had to sum up her mindset, we could talk forever, but if I had to sum it up, it was at the point where her body was so under attack, so much pain, that her team of 20-some doctors now became, +1, where they hired her a pain management doctor. And I'd never forget, he comes in and he's got this head bandana on, and he opens up the door, and, we had expressed to the doctors in our charts, once you cross the threshold of our door, we do not speak negative. We do not label her as diseased. We do not label her as a JDM kid. It is positive. It is upbeat. Anything negative is outside. So he opens the door and he looks in and he sees Emerie laying there, and I remember him scratching his head and looks at Emerie's charts, and then he points to me and he goes, Dad? And I said, yeah. And he points over at Emerie in the bed, and he goes, is that Emerie? And I said, sure is. And he's flipping the charts, shaking his head, and he waves me out in the hallway, and he says, hey man, what I don't understand is I've been doing this for 20-some years, 30 years, and he goes, her charts, her blood work says she should be screaming, reeling in pain, unbearable, and she's smiling. Why is she smiling? Emerie could not talk, but later on I would ask her and she would tell me once I got under control and she could talk. I said, Emerie, the pain management doctor wanted to know, why were you not screaming in pain? And she calmly looked at me like she always does. And she says, well, Dad, one thing is I knew that I was loved. Okay, let that sink in. Her first response when, why weren't you screaming in pain, was, I knew I was loved. And secondly, she said to me, what good would it do to complain, Dad? I knew my pain was temporary. I thought as an 8-year-old, she wasn't coached by Stacie and I trying to tough it up. No. As an 8-year-old, her mindset was, I'm loved, I'm with people that care about me, and I will outlast my pain. That, to me, is the summary of stand and fight altogether. Be willing to outlast whatever circumstance you're going through. I don't care if it's something with your job or some spousal stuff or medical stuff. Are you willing to outlast the pain? 8-year-old was. 8-year-old was. That's why kids, I believe, have a better chance of succeeding. They have not been tainted by the world like a lot of adults are. We've been tainted by the world, and we will kick and scream and complain. And she did not. I say that. Yes, there were times where she was crying and screaming of sorts. Okay, so I'm not trying to say she never did it.
Well, that is just so incredible, you guys. And I'm so excited that you get to, now she's healthy and you guys get to share your story with other people, bring hope to families that are going through the same, but also just bring shared experiences with them. And hopefully they can lean into you, and also just the amazing things that you're doing, which we'll get into a little bit later on to the podcast. But jumping back to the list of questions. So what was it like as parents to process the news of such really a rare and life-threatening autoimmune diagnosis at such a young age?
Yeah, it's hard to put into words, but I mean, so all families, all people go through something in their lives, right? I think it's just you're going to come up with something, and it may not be a life-threatening illness, but you're going to come up with something. It's just hit harder than we can ever. A lot of times I even struggle to talk about it, so I'm holding it together pretty good, but it's just, you would do anything to replace the pain your daughter is feeling, and you can't. It doesn't work that way. You can't take away the pain and say, I'll take it. It's heartbreaking.
It's pretty devastating to watch innocent childhood robbed from your child, or the idea that, and I think in our minds, we were pretty shored in, like we were shored up. We allowed healthy emotional processing within our home. We don't have like bad diseases running rampant through our bloodline. We eat healthy, like live as holistic of a lifestyle as possible. So when this just kind of sneaks in the back door, we didn't have a grid. I remember when the nurse told us, a child life specialist came in and she goes, this is actually what Emerie has, and this is what this potentially looks like. And it literally felt like somebody threw a dagger into my heart. Like, your heart is tearing and you don't have any way to like understand what you're up against because it's so rare, or really tangibly understand what we're going to be going through. Our older children were also, for lack of better words, largely abandoned at home because of different COVID policies at the time, and they weren't allowed in the hospital. They weren't allowed to come in and see her. And Emerie was in such a fragile state that it required both of us being present to make a lot of decisions, and also being informed that we were now co-parenting with the hospital. And so even though we may want something and they disagree, we no longer had final authority.
Once a kid goes to the ICU or the PICU, the ICU, parents, the amount of say you have goes way down.
So largely we were both there, present at the hospital, which left our other two kind of out loose. And so we're so thankful for our community that came in and kind of took them under their wings. But
grandparents and community through school and sports, and would come and pick up the older two and take them to the museum, or take them to boondocks or whatever.
I think we processed an hour at a time.
What's your advice to parents and there are people in our community that are going through these hard things with their children. So what's your advice to those parents to help them through this process?
You need your community, right? There's no way we could have done it isolated and alone. We're meant for relational community. Our children wouldn't have thrived without their help. And it may seem insignificant, but the little things the community members do are monumental. We still talk about precious families that would just drop meals off on our doorstep to know that our kids were fed, or drop groceries off, just sweep in and help.
Yeah.
Somehow people would come and clean our toilets so that our children could have, a sanitary place to be, and just so many acts of kindness.
So help. And then I would say to parents that are truly in the fight, and again, our hearts are for the kid that ends up at Children's for the broken bone or the 6 stitches they need their G. But we feel for you. But stand and fight is for kids facing life-threatening illnesses, and that's where our heart is. But I would say if you're in the fight, I don't know, something we learned is early on is, it's easy to run a race that's got a finish line, whether it's a mile long or heck, even a marathon. It's got a finish line and the pain will end. But are you willing to run a race that does not have a defined finish line? We were not given a finish line with them. We were given terms like life-threatening and potentially lifelong. That sounds like a really long race. And are you willing to run it and take it day by day? The answer has to be yes.
Mm-hmm. And how long were you going all through this before you eventually hit that finish line for your family?
Yeah.
Well, it looked different. Emerie's biggest prayer was that she could be home for Christmas. And so we were at the hospital, living in the hospital for 3 months, which felt like forever. And we got to bring her home for Christmas. It didn't end treatment for her.
It just ended in inpatient care.
But we got to be a family again. We were all under one roof again. And so even though family life looked a little bit different, she was largely healed. We were told we probably needed to consider moving and have wheelchair accessible home. She wouldn't be eating, and Emerie resolved, I'll be home by Christmas. I will be eating to enjoy the family Christmas meal, and I will walk home. And she was seemingly healed overnight. And we got to bring her home without her tube feed or NG tube. We got to bring her home, although with a wheelchair, she could get out of it and walk in our front door, greeted by all the people who'd been rooting for her all those months. And she could talk again to tell her siblings, her motivating factor the whole time was, I want to see my brother and sister again. I want to have life with them again. And so we had infusions to come and medical checkups and all that. But for us, that was freedom, medical freedom. Yeah. We were home.
Yeah. I mean, for a kid diagnosed with JDM to go outpatient now, they still spend, it varies, but for instance, Emerie was still 2 and 3 days a week for 8 hours at the local children's hospital, still receiving infusions. So even though we were out of Anschutz, we were at the local one for literally 8-hour days, 2-3 days a week. And so we were out, but not out. But
And even though that time period, although long at the time, was relatively short, it was very defining. And so as parents, understanding that she's not the only one with emotional wounds or trauma coming out of this, and how to attend to siblings with that and make sure everybody has adequate time to kind of process that. There's still little things that weasel their way into daily life, and you're like, I can pin that root, that goes. And
that's a whole podcast in itself, right?
Yes.
We can talk for hours on that topic.
And just Emerie was the one doing the day-to-day, minute-to-minute. She was the patient, but there's brother, sister, what emotional toll it does on the siblings is
even our dog.
A whole different one. Even our dog, yeah. But that's a whole different podcast about. Don't forget about those siblings.
Yeah.
Well, if it wasn't clear, you guys started the Stand and Fight Foundation, which I love the name. And can you share how that phrase came to be and what it means to you?
Yeah, so the first time we heard it is when we took her to the ER, and once we got all the news dropped on us that this was not a take 2 pills and we'll see you in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Stacie kneeling down to Emerie at her bedside and going, "Hey, Emerie, we all have been tasked with facing the biggest giant we've ever seen. And we're going to do it together. We're going to do it hand in hand. But we have to make a choice. We have to make a choice right now. And the choice is to you can either run and hide or make a choice to stand and fight." When most people, and rightfully so, when they see stand and fight, they think like physically stand up and fight. That's totally fair and totally reasonable. Stand and fight really came out of making a stand, like making that mental choice, captivating all thoughts, making that stand. I'm drawing a line in the sand and I'm not going backwards. I'm going to make a stand and fight. And so that was the mindset going forward was, and remember, just because you make a choice to stand and fight on a Monday at 8 a.m., that doesn't mean that you're good like Tuesday and Friday and then the next. No, there were times where literally every hour we were reminding Emerie and ourselves, nope, I've made the choice to stand and fight. Maybe tough for a children's charity, but fighting the life-threatening illness is not about rainbows and unicorns and puppies, and it is tough. And some of the kids we've got to visit,
They're so resilient, children.
So awesome.
They are amazing. They are amazing. Yeah.
Well, and we live in this world where there's the stuff that doesn't matter that we're looking at day after day after day because of social media and the internet and all of this stuff. But then when you're put in a situation like what you guys had to go through, you realize just the beauty in life and community and living, so.
I mean, there were dark times, but in the midst of all of this, I mean, I can recall we were admitted to the hospital for 4 days, and then we're like, we kicked its butt. We're out of here.
Yeah.
And we went home, and in the next 2 days, just, man, such rapid degradation. She just was in breakdown mode. And so we were rushed very quickly back to the hospital.
For 4 or 5 more days.
Well, and in that moment was what took her speech, her swallow, her ability. I remember her before her speech was fully gone. It was just wee hours of the morning. And it was so dark, and she's just weeping, "Help me, help me, help." And she had been able to go to the bathroom, and in those moments she could now no longer stand up. She couldn't get herself to the bathroom. She couldn't lift her hands or move her fingers. She lost like all mobility and just help, and so we had so many dark moments like that. There's a time where she recalls where she actually thought she died, but she was over medicated so she could observe what was going on, but she couldn't be present in her own body. And she had so many really dark moments. But in saying that, like, the days weren't good, right? But there were beautiful moments in every day. And she was always able to find the one good thing that happened to her that day and give thanks for it.
Yeah, we called it, we still do it, actually. We call it roses and thorns. So her hospital room was, every day one of us would write on a sticky note some words of encouragement. And some of them were just something from the heart. Some of them were stuff from, a Bible verse. Others were something
Winnie the
Pooh, whatever. But we're there so long that one wall of her hospital room was filled with all these sticky notes. So it got to the point where the medical team would come in, they'd be like, which one's today? Which one's a new one today? But it was roses and thorns. And it was, what you'd find is most days you could list off 5 horrible pointy thorns that just got you that day. Bit you, got you. But she would almost always, with a grateful heart go, here's the rose on top, Dad. And at some point she couldn't talk, right? But later on she could talk, but she'd communicate, Ruffles, the medical dog, would come in and, jumped up on the bed and hung out with her. Or, hey, my blood work came back, even though still horrible. It was better. It was trending the right direction, but still horrible, right? So my blood work's better.
But she was phenomenal in that she never even really voiced her thorns. She always chose to see the rose. Always.
That's true. Maybe it was me. Maybe
Yeah,
it was me
I
seeing
think
the
it's us
thorns.
adults. It's us adults complaining. Even the nursing staff would come by and be like, her room feels so different than any other room. And we are so drawn to Emerie. She's like, the nurses were like, we all fight over who gets to care for her today.
Yeah, she is. I mean, all kids are special and capable of amazing things, but when it's your own kid, and just to see her, be the calm in the chaos, the still in the storm, smile when someone else would be, I would be screaming or crying or, kicking rocks.
As you were starting to wrap your head around creating this foundation, what did Emerie want it to be about? What did she want to do? What were some of her ideas around how you could help other people?
Well, a couple of things. So when we were in there was probably 3 different occasions where we could literally point to it and go, that was the spark. And these are Emerie's words. Emerie says, it was like that spark that got us to that next day, or the spark that got us to the next day to get us to the next week. And, as sparks happen, sparks turn into flames turn into fires, and fires eventually turn into raging infernos. And what you're looking at right now is a raging inferno, not the bad kind like you see in the mountains. I'm talking. So Emerie she wants to create a spark in kids. She wants to do for other kids what was done for her. Denver Channel 7 News did a story on Emerie, where the construction site next door out of her hospital room made her this biggest banner you've ever seen. Get well soon, Emerie. And they put streamers on their construction equipment and did spinnies in the construction site. And so it was that. And then, we wanted to remind kids that they're capable of all things. So our stand and fight boxes are all geared towards, reminding kids that they're loved, that they're brave, that they're capable. And, the signature piece in there is, Emerie did not have a chest port for medicines, but she had a PICC line. She did not like at all undressing for doctors and taking it off to access. So coming out of it, we wanted to provide kids with, something Emerie wished we would have had then, a shirt that was adaptive of sorts, where, you could unzip her and access the chest port or the PICC line. So provide some kids some dignity during treatments.
Yeah, and the ease of access. It would be so hard for her to actually be able to fall asleep, and she would just fall asleep, and nurses would come in and have to sanitize her skin for treatment and wipe her all down. So just quick ease of where the child can kind of sleep through it and have easy access to, IV line. Yeah.
And are you putting these boxes together? How do they end up getting, stuffed and sent off? How does that whole process work?
Great question. So we got like a quarter of our basement is like an assembly line to gear up these stand and fight boxes. So these boxes have been wonderfully designed from the outside, the messaging the kid first sees, to the big balloon that they receive. But everything in it has been just very carefully crafted. Many of it just right here in Erie. I mean, all of our shirts are printed from 52 native, right downtown Erie, and zippers are installed in these shirts, and actually Lafayette. But
did they go out to all of is it ICU patients? Is it just kind of, how do you decide who gets them?
The nursing staff or child life specialist staff, they actually nominate children that they see within their walls that could use a little bit of help. So the other items that are in the box are just items that we found as long-term hospitalized patients. You need some of these things. It helps bring a little bit of comfort, joy, dignity, encouragement.
Yeah, we've had parents say hey, you guys have nailed it. The stuff in this box has helped my kiddo walk into his or her appointments with confidence and knowing that they're loved. And it's really quite something. The kids have all started calling the adaptive shirts fight shirts. So a lot of them that are outpatients, they go Tuesdays and Thursdays to receive chemo. So instead of undressing at the hospital, they put on their fight shirts in the morning. So they just walk in, nurse unzips it, hooks them up to chemo, and it's our shirts all have some messaging on it. And just reminding them that they're loved and to make the choice to stand and fight. But yeah, so the nursing staff and medical professionals will nominate a kid based on meeting our criteria of a life-threatening or life-altering illness. So they nominate the kid, they get some shirt sizes and some specifics we need in order to fill the box with the appropriate boy or girl stuff and size of clothing. And we get the order from Children's, and we work closely with their Family Resource Center down there. And as long as we have the email by bedtime, we're packaging them up before bed. And sometimes we bring one box, sometimes it's 10 box, but we bring them, and they're delivered. Most oftentimes we're not able to do it just because of hospital policy, but they're delivered by the medical professional that nominated them.
In your opinion, how does your foundation bring hope and support to children and families facing their own battles?
I think that was our number one goal, is that families would know that they were valued and seen in the midst of this. There's so much swirling all around you. And I think we've heard a lot of parents say it just felt so good to be noticed and known in the midst of the chaos. Most of our stuff, we're kind of a twofold. A lot of ours is about captivating positive thoughts, really working in that mind space to help usher in wholeness and the emotional aspects so that there's no hindrance to healing there. And then the physical part with recognition and dignity with those treatments. And so I think just understanding that they're not in the battle alone, they don't fight alone. There are people in the community that actually stand alongside of you and support you, and we are fighting for you. Some of the stuff seems so meaningless, but when you're in that situation, it's not. You need that positive encouragement. Just to see your child, we were the recipients of a really positive nonprofit outreach that helped give Emerie back her childlike wonder.
Her joy,
yeah. And it was a game changer. And to see your child have that little spark in them again, to renew that hope for a brighter future, there is a promise for me for tomorrow, and it will get better. It's so helpful. So we just wanted to be part of that, to give back and be that spark for families, to give just a small little tangible piece of hope to keep going, keep pushing forward.
We'd love to be able to have the means or the smarts to cure cancer or insert whatever you want. We don't. But what we do have the ability to do is gather our community who's been wonderfully supportive and help us create that spark so that kid and the family can get to the next day or the next week or the next month, and let the medical teams go do what they do. That's been wonderful. That's been wonderful.
Well, Tyler and Stacie, what you guys are doing is just so incredible, and I'm so excited that we get to highlight this here on the Erie Wellness Podcast. Stacie, you also wrote a children's book called Stand and Fight: Overcoming the Giants in the Land. Can you share what inspired you to write it and what you hope children take away from it? Well,
Emerie's obviously the inspiration. It's her story. It's a rhythmic allegory. And basically it's my thank you to her. Sorry. You were unshakable. And it's kind of my love letter to her, that and her children today, for just the storm came in just raging, and she could have just completely bent under it, but it didn't break her. She became just so beautifully defined. And so obviously the giants in the land in the story are these big emotional giants and physical ailments that come against you. And the story is not rainbows and unicorns, like you said earlier, and it's been scrutinized for being a little bit heavy, but the idea is that it is exceptionally challenging to fight for your life. It's foolish to think that it would be some empty promise or a rainbow, some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So the book is really just about embracing. It's meant to be slowly read through. It's very, the characters are a little bit comical and whimsical to make light of some of the seriousness of the storyline. it was inspired by 3 of Emerie's reads that were on repeat. We would just sit and dialogue through those stories and what the characters were going through and choices the characters made. And so for her, she wanted a story that wrapped all 3 of those stories into one, which is her stand and fight, overcoming the giants in the land. And my hope is that this book's meant to be paired with a workbook, and so that's to come. But that the child and the caretaker would slowly kind of dialogue through these. Like, these giants are really big emotions, and so my hope is that they can name what they're going through, attend to it, express it in a healthy way, and then release those emotions and replace them with truth, so that they can help kind of move forward a little bit. And it's meant as encouragement in the midst of some really heavy, dark circumstances. So
Yeah.
we hope it's positive.
I'm biased. It's wonderfully done. And I think that the general feedback is, people that have been through something pretty significant, it's viewed as awesome and not so heavy, but someone maybe who has not yet, it can come across as heavy. And I have to try to put myself in their shoes, and I can see that, but it's wonderfully done. And
Is it inside some of the boxes?
Yes. Yeah.
So we age it. So probably, 8 to
12,
8 to
13,
12,
yeah.
8 to 13. We'll put the book in the box.
Right, like age appropriate for.
The 4-year-old doesn't get the book, all the other stuff, but
and it's
that the children.
It's only in English right now. We don't have a Spanish version. It's written in rhyme, and so it's a little tricky to translate.
It's currently at the Children's Hospital bookstore at the Anschutz. They took it on, and of course on Amazon and straight from our website.
So how can people in our Erie community, or just locally and beyond, get involved with Stand and Fight?
So we have little encouragement cards in every single box that goes out to the recipients. And those encouragement cards are created by children helping children. And so we would love different school groups, youth groups, scouts, whatever, to help come alongside of us and create these encouragement cards, color them all up and create positivity,
Yeah, they're great. It's amongst the first thing a kid sees when they open this box, that encouragement card created by a kid roughly their age for them. It's one of the first things they see, and we've heard wonderful feedback on it. So that is something easy and doesn't take a whole bunch of time.
That's a great idea.
We provide the cards, or if you got your own, but there's only maybe 1 or 2 rules regarding the cards. We can't have anyone write
false hope.
False hope. So you will get better. We have no idea oftentimes what the kid's up against who receives our box. So a false promise or false hope, and you will get better. Right? So it's stuff like be strong, BEE with the bumblebee, be strong, or get whale soon with drawing a humpback whale. It's fun stuff like that. And we got lots of examples we can share, and examples on our website.
Well, that is a great idea. I didn't even think about so many different youth activities that are going on here locally that I could definitely get involved in that.
Yeah.
Are there any upcoming events, projects, or opportunities for people to support your mission?
Yeah, well, our aspirations are to grow to the point where we need the community's help packing these boxes. Right now we're set up to where we're able to do it as a family, but to grow enough, maybe serving hospitals outside of Colorado or more in Colorado, that we do need the community's help to pack these boxes. But from an event standpoint, every March for the past 3 years, we ran the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge. That's running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So minimal sleep and just going. So I'll run all 48 miles. Stacie would typically run all of them minus the midnight and 4 a.m. shift, because she's got to be home to take care of the kids. Obviously, the kids have usually come out and ran with us, but we've had a lot of community members come and join us. So there's, of those 48 miles, there's all sorts of people who will come and run 1 or 4 or 10 miles with me. But we've done that in the past. It's fun to see community come. In fact, this past March we had the family of one of the kids, we were able to provide a stand and fight box to. This kid who, I don't want to give away his whole story, but let's just say he wasn't supposed to be able to run, let alone walk. And that kid showed up on the final 4 miles of our run. And he calls me Fight Man. He goes, "Fight Man, I came to run 4 miles with you." Mm-hmm. He made it half a mile, and I carried him the other 3.5 on my arm. But that was awesome. And seeing Emerie cross it, she always crosses the finish line last, is kind of that statement. But our aspirations are to take it out of, instead of running around Anschutz Hospital, Children's Hospital, to come to Erie and have the community participate in some version of this 48-mile or 48-hour challenge, kind of like a relay for life kind of thing. So we're still brainstorming on how to do that and how to bring it to Erie. So if you have any listeners that have some connections with whether it's the town of Erie or maybe it's Erie High School, we can use their track for a 48-hour period and have teams of 10, teams of 12, where someone's always running on that track for a 48-hour period and running, to raise money for charities. And of course, we're trying to always raise money for Stand and Fight, but maybe we tie it into other awesome local nonprofits where it's, it's not just all about Stand and Fight. It's what's the community doing. And that would be our goal, is to bring it to Erie so we can all grow this thing and be talking about it 10 years from now.
Tyler and Stacie, thank you so much for being here on the Erie Wellness Podcast today with us and for giving us a glimpse into the incredible heart behind the Stand and Fight Foundation. For anyone listening who wants to support the Stand and Fight, there are several ways to get involved. You can select Stand and Fight as your chosen nonprofit for King Soopers Community Rewards. You can also support them and Erie's own 52 Native print shop by purchasing Stand and Fight merchandise through them. And finally, you can make a tax-deductible donation directly to Stand and Fight. Fun fact, 100% of the donations go straight to the kids. Tyler and Stacie personally cover all the operating costs, like business fees, website expenses, and licensing. And you can find all the links and details in the show notes. Tyler and Stacie, thank you again for being here and for the work you're doing to bring hope, courage, and community to so many local families. All right, friends, before we wrap up, here's the part I need to read to you. You know how it goes. This podcast is presented solely for educational purposes. I am just your friend behind the mic. I'm not a licensed therapist or doctor, and nothing you hear here is meant to replace the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or any other qualified professional. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you back here in the next episode. That's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Erie Wellness Podcast. I truly appreciate you being a part of this journey. If you loved today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. For more daily wellness inspiration and behind-the-scenes content, be sure to follow me on Instagram at the Erie Wellness Podcast. I can't wait to connect with you again soon.